Then I saw the United States. I saw military bases being closed.
Wants the Americans out of their country. Baghdad isn't mincing words. They want the US troops to leave.
The United States and Iraq are about to initiate talks over America's withdrawal from the West Asian nation, their second withdrawal this century. Their first was in 2011 after the war on Saddam Hussein. Then they came back to the nation they destroyed in 2014.
Our next story is from Iraq. The West Asian nation seems to be fed up with the US, specifically American troops. Iraq wants them out.
Therefore, behold, I send you prophets, wise men, and scribes.
Prophecy, the otherworldly power by which the affairs of the earth are shaped. By this splendor, Prophet Andrew Yuko sheds the light of the kingdom of God upon the nations of the world, that all of them should be without excuse before the glorious throne of Almighty God. Since beginningless time, prophecy has shaped worlds, societies, generations and ages. Empires and kingdoms rise and fall in the wake of prophecy. So great is the word of prophecy that not even the superpowers of the mortal world can escape its influence. In biblical times, the prophets of God imposed the dominion of heaven on military affairs of their day. Father Abraham, first to be named prophet, subdued the combined armies of the kings of Canaan. Prophet Elijah subdued the armies of Ahab, king of Israel, and Prophet Elisha overcame the armies of the king of Aram, who was at war with Israel. This is the splendor of prophecy. Sunday, 7th January 2024.
Then I saw the United States and I saw military bases being closed. The trumpet sounds in the spirit and the call goes forth. And Colombia, that is the spiritual name for the United States, Colombia begins to hasten her retreat from the military bases planted around all over the globe. I think they have about 800 bases around the globe. So a trumpet was blown in the spirit, and the call went forth, and then they began to, it's like they were rushing to close bases. So what you saw with them leaving Afghanistan, you are going to see an intensity, more of it all over the place. There's a hastening in motion. Now, I would not want to speak much more on this matter for obvious reasons. One, it is military, those who are very sensitive, military people. But also, but as sensitive as they are, it will happen, but that's not the reason why I don't want to speak more. It's not because it's just a military issue. It's because of the prophetic significance. God is allowing it to happen because there is a certain prophecy that must be fulfilled after this one is done. You remember what I've told you about the current Israel-Hamas war? I've told you that it is setting the stage for the big one. Now that's why I was telling you, this is not the big one. There are certain things that must happen before the big one. Now the Lord is allowing these military bases to be closed so that the stage is perfect for the big one. You get it, This one will be ended, although it's but it will be ended.
Our next story is from Iraq. The West Asian nation seems to be fed up with the US, specifically American troops. Iraq wants them out. The US has about 2,500 troops in Iraq. They're part of an international coalition against the terror group ISIS. American troops have been fighting ISIS in Iraq since 2014, and they seem to have won. ISIS has been pushed back. But despite the success, the Americans do not seem to want to leave, and this has become a problem for Iraq, especially because of the war in Gaza. Anti-American sentiment is on the rise. Iraq's leaders do not want to be associated with the US any longer.
The reasons for the presence of coalition forces were to confront ISIS. The end of the mission of the international coalition is a necessity for the security and stability of Iraq. It is also necessary to maintain constructive bilateral relations between Iraq and the countries of the international coalition.
Al-Sudani has tried to ask American troops to leave for a while now. He had broached the subject early last year, and the two countries had even decided to hold a high military commission last year to chalk out a path towards the US withdrawal. But all that progress stalled last October, when Hamas attacked Israel on October the 7th.
Just days after Prophet Andrew uttered this prophecy, the media was awash with news of the shocking fulfillment of this word. This marked a great start of the unfolding events, and the child of God does not have to be in the dark about the significance of such momentous events.
The trumpet sounds in the spirit, and the call goes forth, and Colombia, that is the spiritual name for the United States, Colombia begins to hasten her retreat from the military bases planted around all over the globe. I think
Signs of the sounding of the supernatural trumpet reverberate in the natural arena, even as yet another US base shockingly suffered a historic fatal attack.
Mr. Biden blamed the attack on radical Iran-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq. Tehran has denied any involvement in the attack, in which 3 service personnel were killed and 34 were injured. This is the latest in a series of attacks against US bases in the region since the war in Gaza began. Let's bring you more with our World Affairs correspondent, Paul Adams.
The Americans say the attack happened at a base known as Tower 22, right on the Syrian-Jordanian border. It's one of many American bases across the region. There have been dozens of drone and missile attacks in recent months, but no American personnel have been killed until now.
There have been other attacks on the US bases in the region. But before Sunday, there were no fatalities, according to the US military. In the wake of this prophecy, the forces of this world and the mighty ones of this age come face to face with the living God, Yahweh, who proves himself very much active in the arena of mankind.
And what were these US drones doing roaming over the sky of Syria anyway? In response, many people started questioning the purpose of the American presence in Syria and Iraq. Here from the BBC, what is Tower 22 and why are US troops in Jordan? In this article, Forbes wrote, "Is this the beginning of the end for US troop deployments in Syria and Iraq?" Not only that, but in recent months, and again in January, literally days ago, Iraq's Prime Minister Al-Sudani has repeatedly called for a complete US withdrawal from Iraq.
Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Revelation 19:10.